Hi, I'm Jannie Russell. I am a mother, grandmother, and a wife of nearly 50 years this week. And I live at 1210 Peri Street. I've lived in Opa-locka for 35 years. What I do now in Opa-locka, outside of being a community activist, I'm the CEO of Teen Upward Bound, which has now catapulted into the Dream Project. So we are doing a lot of exciting things in Opa-locka. It's been a journey, 30 plus years journey. Well, I'm from down south. I'm a Coconut Grove young lady, raised in Coconut Grove, not born there. My husband and I had moved our family to Richmond Heights, and we were a young married family, and we wanted to buy a home. We tried several times to buy a home, and things just didn't work out. Finally, a home came available through a young man that my husband was doing some work for. He was in real estate. And he said, I have this house. He said, but it's in Opa-locka. And when you hear but, you that brings up a lot of things. But my sister lived here, and she had bought her first home. So I said, well, I visited her. She lives on the east side of Opa-locka. And I said, well, I visited her, and it doesn't seem to be that bad. So he gave us the address to the house. One afternoon after my husband got off from work, we came chucking from Richmond Heights down here to Opa-locka to get here before dark because we wanted to see the house. When we turned, came off the Pyramid Expressway and turned where we were going to, now it was saying we were in Opa-locka, I was very discouraged. All I saw was abandoned cars in the yard, on the side of the road, trash everywhere. I said that day, they must have made Opa-locka look really bad to discourage me. So I told my husband when we were riding, my kids were in the back seat. I said, honey, I don't know about this. I don't know about this. So we rode by the house. We didn't stop because it was people still living in the house at that time. So we just kind of looked around the neighborhood, went around a couple of streets, and so we drove across 27th Avenue to my sister's house where she lived. It was much better on that side. We talked to her for a little while, and she was saying, oh, it's not bad, just settle down, you're just too hyper, settle down, it's a nice neighborhood. So we decided that, okay, it was a good price. We had got approved for the loan, and we had to look at the house as to what we wanted it to be. We had to look at the neighborhood as to what we wanted it to be, because moving from Richmond Heights at that time to Opa-locka was a big difference in the streets, in the landscape, where you shop. All of those things were totally, totally different. So it was a stretch. Well, where we lived was more on the, we live on the west side. We didn't venture much on the east side, but we heard about it a lot. We knew about it a lot. Our kids went to Rainbow Park in North Dade, and that's mostly where I saw a lot of drug activity because I drove my kids to school. And at that store on the corner when you turn to go down to North Dade, it was infested in the mornings with people stopping buying drugs. And our street was pretty quiet. We had one person that was a police officer. He was no longer a police officer, but he had been a police officer, which was a white guy. And his family lived on the street. They mostly ran the street. They kind of did whatever They mostly ran the street. And we had a lot of white neighbors. So we were kind of skeptical of letting our children go outside and play because we really didn't know. But what we did was got to know our neighbors on each side of us. They weren't always friendly, but we made the best of it. And I had one neighbor, Mr. Fogarty. He was in a wheelchair. And he rode by my house one day, and we had painted the house a gray color. And, this was our new home, so we painted our house gray. And he came by in his wheelchair. He was always up and down the street. He knew everybody. He had lived there forever. And he said, "Oh, so you all are the new neighbors in the yard. I just want to let you know I don't like the color of that house." So, me, I said, "Oh, okay." So my husband came outside and said, "Well, this is not your house. You don't have to like this house." But he said, "Well, I'm just telling you, I don't like the color of this house." And he would always ride up and down the sidewalk and, and say things. I learned after a while that he wasn't being mean. That was his way of being friendly. So I just accepted it for what it was. One day, my daughter, asthmatic, and in the mornings, they would have to go to the bus, and it was dark. They had to walk by his house, and he always had a light on in his room. I never knew that he would watch the kids go down the sidewalk in the morning to go to school. Well, he hadn't seen my daughter for a few days. So he came right down the sidewalk. I was out in the yard. He said, "Hey, I haven't seen your daughter. What's going on?" I said, "She's sick. She was in the hospital. She has asthma." And he was like a drop in his face. He said, "I have to watch out for her more now in the morning." And that changed our whole relationship with him. So we got to just get in where you fit in with our neighbors. It was a rough go for a minute, but we understood the task. This is our first home that we'll own. We're raising our children here. It's important for us to get to know our community, get to know our neighbors, and to make this home. And where we grew up in Coconut Grove, in order to make this home, you got to be neighborly. One thing that really kind of gave me a negative nod is that down south, I wrote checks. When I went to the grocery store, I wrote a check. When I went to the dry cleaners, I wrote a check. I didn't venture to corner stores, as they call them, that much. And I didn't find the same type of environment, friendly environment, neighborhood environment here, where I could go to the neighborhood dry cleaners to have my clothes cleaned and write a check. Everything was cash. Winn-Dixie was in Opa-locka at that time, and the store, it was not family friendly. It wasn't clean. Nobody seemed to have cared that it wasn't clean. And it was always busy, always full of people. And everybody just seemed to go along. If I complained to the manager, that the fruit, you have fruit flies flying all around the fruit, they would say, "Oh, okay," and like it was nothing. So what I would do is I used to drive all the way back down south to go to the grocery store to take my clothes to the dry cleaners and to do my shopping. I went back to Dayland or I went to Cutler Ridge Mall because those places I felt at home. Well, my oldest daughter, when I moved here, she was going to Hialeah Miami Lakes. That was her first year of high school. And so she was very distraught because we were taking her from her friends that she had gone to school with, and they were getting ready to go to high school, and that was like something really, really big for them. So now we're taking her and taking her to a school that's far away from her community, kind of, and that she doesn't know anybody. I think she knew one young lady at the time. And so in the afternoon, when I would pick her up from school, sometimes she would say, Mom, can you give this person a ride home? You know, most of the other parents were working. I was probably like the only one that were picking up kids from Opa-locka that I could see and that I knew of and bringing them home. So after a couple of weeks, I had a carload of kids that I was picking up and bringing home. And little did I know, most of them lived right in our circle, right in our area. And they would come and you know, she would say, come in, my mama fix you a sandwich. Or come in, my mama fix Jell-O, because I used to always have them Jell-O when they got home from school. So my mom would give you Jell-O. So the kids started coming and hanging around. They would do their homework together. And I noticed that the kids, they would get off by themselves and talk. So I would, you know, say, what are y'all talking about? You know, why y'all kind of huddled up? And they would begin to talk to me a little bit. And I got concerned that, you know, well, do you talk to your parents? You know, children need to talk to their parents. And I saw the need to volunteer at the school. I started volunteering at Rainbow Park. I joined the PTA, became the PTA president. Then I went to Hialeah Miami Lakes where my older daughter was. They didn't have a PTA. That concerned me. I've always been involved in PTA at all of my children's schools. They didn't have a PTA. They said, well, you know, it's high school. You know, you don't really need a PTA. So I said, no, yes, you do. So we started the PTSA. That's when it first came out at Hialeah Miami Lakes. And it gave me an opportunity to see that there was a void in our community for children. And I began to build on that void. I became a listener. Dade County Public Schools had a program called the Listeners Program, where you would go into the school, they would assign you a child, and you would just listen to that child for 30 minutes. You didn't ask them any questions, not even their name. They would just talk, and then if they wanted to color, if they wanted to write, if they just wanted to sit back and just shake their head, you had that child for 30 minutes, and you just listened to whatever they said. And that instilled in me that I'm able to be home in the afternoon with my kids. I'm able to make them a sandwich, make sure they're doing their homework. All kids didn't have that. And that's what brought about Teen Upward Bound. At first, I really didn't know what to call it. My son at that time, he was the innovative child. So he told me one day, I got a name for you. And he's the one that named Teen Upward Bound. And that's what birthed Teen Upward Bound, just seeing the need that children just needed an outlet. There were no after-school programs in Opa-locka. There wasn't a lot of resources. Opa-locka Elementary didn't have, it was the only really school in the city of Opa-locka, and they didn't have a lot of resources. And although my children went to Rainbow Park, I felt that we needed something in community for the children that lived in community, that if they wanted to come after school, that they would have someone there that could help tutor them, play games, hang out until the parents got home from school. Because as you previously said, the drug activity and during that time, people were doing a lot of snatch and grabs. So that was big in the community for the kids to be walking home by themselves and really not having anything to do. It was known as the latchkey kids at that time. I get amazed sometime when I go to a store and a child walk up to me and say, Miss Russell, how is this person, how is that person that might have volunteered, might have not even been an employee, volunteered for years, and I don't remember their name. And I said, oh, you don't remember me, Miss Russell? You don't remember all the problems I gave you? And I laughed. I said, what's your name? And they tell me, I said, oh, okay. I don't have a clue. But it gives me great joy when I have kids that have moved to New York and they get on my Facebook page and say, Miss Russell, I'm so-and-so. You don't remember me from Teen Upward Bound? My husband and I was traveling in Georgia. We were in the mall in Albany, Georgia. And this lady was yelling, hey. We don't know nobody in Albany, and we didn't bring anybody with us to the mall. And she said, you don't remember me? I said, no. I look at my husband. He said, no. And she told us her kid's name. I said, oh, yeah. She said, are you all going to start a Teen Upward Bound here? So it has been a great impact in the lives of many. We, as much as we can, stay in contact with the children that have been a part of our program. Our first kids, when we got a building and had the kids coming there, we still are in contact with those kids. Some of those kids are a part of Teen Upward Bound. This has been a great journey. And I must say that my first impression, I didn't see with my natural eyes what was to become, but I believed and I dreamed that it would be great in Opa-locka. And we have made a footprint in the city of Opa-locka. I can't call them all. Well, one of my kids, Watrell was one of our first kids. Now he has his own trucking business. He travels throughout. Isaiah Thomas, Roots Collective. Isaiah was one of our students at Teen Upward Bound. He used to go to South Miami Elementary School for school, and he used to catch the bus and come to Opa-locka. We have Tommy Streeter that played professional football. Tommy was a part of Teen. I have so many athletes that have come through. I don't want to start calling names because I'll forget somebody. But it's just been amazing. I have a young lady that was a part of Teen Upward Bound. She's now a doctor. Elaine Sharp, she's now a doctor. We used to take her to school and pick her up in the afternoon, and she would stay with us for a little while after the program because her mom had to work. And Ricky and Michael, they still come and help whenever they can. Miss Russell, do you need anything? And I have some students that if they even think that I need anything, Mr. Russell, they are always there. Mr. Russell had a basketball team of young men that nobody wanted to be bothered with. Nobody wanted to have anything to do with them. And he would get up on Saturday, and all day Saturday, he would have those young men. After the basketball game, he would take them out to eat and then made sure that he kept them all day, because that was one way of making sure that they did not get into trouble. Well, I hope when people remember me, they remember the Russells, because we are a family. And everything that seemingly I can't say we have accomplished. I always drag my husband. Whatever I'm doing, he's always there. Community cleanups, he's always there. Cooking some hamburgers, doing the grill, he's always there. My children, my family, my mom. There wouldn't be any success without them. Community work is not competition. There's no competition in community work, because there's enough work for everybody to do and still have some left over. So I believe the impact that we have had through Teen Upward Bound, through community advocacy, through dealing with school board, and I've been through that as well. I've gone to court with some of my kids that have been in the program, to advocate for them, because I think that children need an advocate in the court system. I've done that as well. And one thing I can say that I hope people will remember, that we have a heart for people and for the city. This is not just a parade that we're doing. This is a legacy that we want to leave, and that I have one kid I want to tell about, Ronald Burgess. When I first started Teen Upward Bound, he and his brother used to jump the fence and come over to the building that we are now. Ronald went away to school. His mom was raising 3 boys by herself. It was very hard for her. Her father was a help to her, but he lived in Broward. Mr. Russell used to drive those boys up there to see their granddad. They moved away, and Ronald began to not be the child that we knew that he could be. So we went up to Broward County, where he was, and set him down and told him, "You're the oldest. Your mom needs you to be an example to your brothers." Ronald got himself together with the help of his family, got himself together. Ronald went away to college, played football, arena football. He came back to visit me a few years ago, and he said, "Miss Russell, I'm an advocate for children." He said, "I have a program. I'm an advocate for children." He said, "You and Mr. Russell inspired me so much. I have to give back, because what you all poured into me when you didn't have to, you had your own family, you didn't have to." So that's what I want to leave. Community is not competition. It's not competition. There's enough work for everybody to get involved in. Well, what I see now, Opa-locka is much cleaner, and we have more code enforcement, not as much as we need, but we do have some. When I first came to Opa-locka, that was non-existent. But how the community have evolved now is that it's a little bit more transient, people aren't staying in their homes as long. So I don't know whether Opa-locka is a place for them to come get started and then move somewhere else. I'm not sure. But there's still a sense of community with the ones that have been here a long time. And we try to make sure that we're neighborly as new people come into our community on the side in which I live. And we don't have as many children as we used to have. Now we see it's beginning to grow. But for a few years, maybe 10 years or so, there was really no little children because all of the children were kind of grown up and moved away or whatever. But I see now we're beginning to have more children. We don't have as many of the older neighbors that we once had. I don't see a lot of young people moving into Opa-locka, but it's getting very diverse. So we have to continue to be neighborly, and we have to get to know the different cultures of people. One of my neighbors was burning trash in the garbage can, and the fire was going up in the air. Well, my daughter came outside and all she saw was the fire. So she was yelling, "Daddy, Daddy, the neighbor's yard is on fire." So, but the neighbor was only burning trash because according to his culture, that's what he did. But by that time, we had gotten the fire department. We had called the fire department, and the neighbor was so upset. But we told him all we saw was a fire, and because we're neighborly, we didn't see you being home. First thing we do is we call the fire department. So knowing the culture is very important. And the only way we're going to get to know each other's culture is we talk to one another. We get to know one another. It's not always just high and by. During the holidays, I might take you a sweet potato pie. You might bring me some croquettes. So that's how our neighborhood has changed in the sense of diversity. But the meaning of neighbor and neighborhood, that hasn't changed. So we have to continue to do those things that we always did to make Opa-locka a community. Opa-locka is not a large place. Opa-locka is very small. But even in being that, I think that we need to make sure that we keep a sense of community. Oh, my greatest hope for Opa-locka is to come from under financial emergency, get a good financial hold on the monies that come in Opa-locka, and then look at avenues, ways that we could build the revenue, that we could do some of the great things that we would like to do we would like to see in the city of Opa-locka. We would love to have brand new parks, roadways, bike paths, those type of things that we go to other communities to enjoy. We would love to have that in our community, but we need revenue to do that because the monies that Opa-locka get is not a very large amount of money, but we need more. We need extra. We need residual funds that we're able to do some of the things to make Opa-locka more of an inviting community. And then the people that live here, we have to put a better spin on our community. We can't be the ones that are always talking down and negative about where you live. Might not be the best in the world, but if God have given you an opportunity to buy a home and to live, it's a blessing. So you have to use what you have to make what's around you better. And who can do that better than you? Everybody has to touch somebody. We have some beautiful parks in Opa-locka. And as we continue to grow, I would love to see some of, if you look at Opa-locka's history, a lot of successful people have come from Opa-locka. Lots of successful people have come. I talked to some of my children's friends that have gone on to other neighborhoods and other states. And I asked them, you should come back and invest because this is your roots. Shabundi Park, that's your roots. Ingram Park, that's your roots. You didn't have a Boys and Girls Club. You had Shabundi Park. You had Ingram Park. Those parks made you the athlete that you are today. You know, so come back and invest in your community. And it can be done. It can be done. You could, we have enough people that have been successful in Opa-locka. Get together and get a grocery store here. Get together, get a donut shop here. Put it in your community that you can put your finger on and say, this is my legacy. This is where I was raised. And be proud of where you come from. I'm a 70s young lady from the 70s. We had to be proud of where we come from because that's all we had.